Kellie, you're here again. I
I'm
get
here.
I just get so happy when we do this daggone show together. Do you feel the
Me
same?
too. I absolutely do. I
Okay.
mean, I
Why?
can't get
What?
away from the difficultness of it every time we do it. As you can see, I'm in a storage room today. But you know what?
Oh
Whatever.
man.
We're gonna deal with it. We're gonna go with it because seeing your face just makes it all better.
Do you think when in like 7 episodes, when we're hugely successful and like Spotify, and Stitcher, they're all like throwing money at us, right? Or all the people, Sirius XM. I suppose it's not going to happen in 7 episodes, but let's say when it happens, do you think we're going to switch up the game, or are we still going to have like the show's still going to be the show and it's going to be backed up because we are amazing. That's just a fact. But do you think we're going to like have like this lavish set and like wonderful? This is it.
I'll still be in a storage room somewhere or like trying to do it from the back of a car. Like it'll still be as difficult as ever because you and I wear so many hats and do so many things and we just want to love everything and do everything and make everything awesome that the more we get, the more we're going to try to do. I just foresee it.
That's true. Okay. Yeah, because I wondered, I felt like I was always rushing. Like as soon as we got to start, I was like, take a deep breath and go. Like we always have that. Yeah. So it's unfortunate, but we are great. We love Billy. We love Julie.
And this is what makes it work. This is what gives us our thing is all the,
okay.
difficultness that we go through on a weekly basis.
I know, but next episode, I want to change up the game. Okay. I'm going to try. Next episode, let's make it like we are, let's pretend everything's going fucking great. Okay, let's just pretend we're like magical. And I know your birthday's emerging, so like maybe
it is.
Yeah,
today is the first day of my birthday month.
Oh. You know what? I'd like to propose a toast. And does anyone still wear hats? No, this is because we do have to spend a little moment to say, because Difficult People has such a theater, stage fascination, Billy, Julie, and everything, especially this episode. Stephen Sondheim, 91 years old. I mean, this is
I
like
know.
A lot of really fun tributes. You saw in Times Square, Lin-Manuel Miranda. As stated by what's our character's name?
Nathan.
No, not Nate. It was Matthew, right?
No, yes, he did, but I thought Nate said it that way too when he was talking about him as his nemesis, but we'll get into that later.
Oh, if anything, Nate, what we saw from Nate, I had forgotten when I originally watched this. Obviously, we talk about it every week that we watch this show many a times. But this episode, I forgot that Nate was like frisky. And you know what?
Yes.
I like to see it, Derek Baskins. I would like to see more. This episode was so delightfully fun, brazen recap, just similar to us. And it talked about housewives. Okay, so maybe we
effing housewives. This was all you. It was perfect. I mean, this could not have been like the better thing. One, I mean, I just have to jump into it, but like one to have Marilyn mentally and emotionally evaluating these women to see if they are fit to be housewives and if their meltdowns will make good television. I mean, who better to do that job? Well, you think it would be Marilyn, right?
Which is like funny, but not funny because I feel like the Housewives is getting like from the time that this aired. And of course, like I said, we're recapping it many years later. Like it's just getting worse and worse, as far as like the housewives that they, that they put on. Some of them are really like going through some really big like headline type stuff. So it was funny.
Well, aren't some of them like not even actual housewives anymore?
They're Kellie, just like half of them.
No, but I mean married as far as being a wife, like not necessarily a housewife, but even being just a wife.
The show is now who's the hottest rich, or on the verge of being rich, or social media loves them. It's
more
or
like
whatever.
socialites versus housewives.
Well, let's not dog socialites because housewives is rickety. No, I love it. And it just is funny because this was a different time. We see Luann and Sonia Morgan. Those are two of my favorites.
Aren't they now?
Oh, let me tell you. They are from Real Housewives of New York. Of all the franchises, I'm going to give you my quick. Should I give you my quick?
I mean, why not? Bring it on. Let's take it.
Okay, I'm just gonna give you. Okay, so basically, in this episode, Marilyn decides that she is going to be put up for this job that she snaked from somebody. By the way,
She sure did. She Gwyneth Paltrowed it.
She
That's Julie says.
damn her. And so she snakes the job, and it's for her to do psych evaluations to find out who's the perfect housewife. And I thought, Real Housewives of New York is going through a lot as far as like a new casting or whatever. So I feel like there's some people I should be saying in my mind should join the show. So one of them is a girl named Olivia Palermo. She was on, well, she's a fashionista. She's a socialite. Like she's it. Very stuffy, which I love. And,
I chatted with her before at one of my jobs.
You worked with her.
I know who you're talking. I actually know this one. I know who
she
you're talking
perfect
about.
though? Do you think she's perfect for the show?
I think she would make a very great housewife.
I did watch her on every episode of The City. Do you remember the Hill spinoff, The City?
Oh, wasn't that with the what's her name?
Whitney Port was
right.
Yeah.
From The Hill, was from the Lauren's show. Lauren's friend, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right.
She was from Lauren's spinoff. Wasn't that a different show? Or was
that?
Yeah, it was. I didn't really watch it. Clearly, I'm very uneducated in this realm, so I'm going to stop talking.
Well, don't say it like that, because now you make me feel like I'm saying like boring stuff. Okay, so you want to talk about?
No, I just
Kellie.
I don't want to confuse
talk about
people
football?
because I'm giving wrong information.
You want to talk about Yellowstone?
We can talk about Yellowstone all day. Don't even get me started.
Maybe we will. Maybe we'll do like a Yellowstone breakdown, because you got to tell me 3 reasons why it's great. But let me finish.
Yeah.
So Olivia Palermo, look at. It's like Kellie.
I mean, if anybody on Yellowstone could be a housewife, like Beth Dutton would just just obliterate them all.
Well, I mean, Kellie, slow down. You can't do that. This is like 2 different worlds. Actually, you can. Saying. Kellie can do whatever she wants.
You think that the way that I talk about Kenya, but if Beth Dutton was in there, Kenya would be like chopped up on the ground.
Oh yeah, and the sister from Succession also could jump in as well. What's her name? I'm
okay. We're going off on a tangent.
Okay, and then the last, I would say, a couple other cast members who Real Housewives of New York should look at, by way of my opinion only, is Amber Sabathia, was CC Sabathia's wife, or is CC Sabathia's wife. So she's a Real Housewife in real life. And, he's a Yankee, or was a Yankee. And she kind of does her little philanthropic stuff or whatnot. She's ran the marathon. She's kind of like youngish, but but also mature. So I would like to see Amber Sabathia on the show, but I feel like while that's a great Ronnie psych evaluation as like who should do it, she might be too normal. Did you see that Marilyn had to do this moment where they said, but you also got to see who's too normal, because they might be boring, but the normal is good, or something like that,
Yeah.
So
I did see that, and she's like, well, let me break it down for you and tell you what this or that, but everything kept going back to her talking about herself. So they told her, well, I don't think that evaluating other people is really your strong suit, or something of that sort. And I love her comeback. It's like, well, fuck you too, I already invoiced you.
I had to rewind that, because I guess I don't remember Marilyn saying that, but she really does say that. And that's
probably my favorite line of this episode.
I feel like there's times in my life I'm way too shy, but I should be like Marilyn. I should be like, actually, time out. I think I am.
I mean, I was gonna say, when are you not like Marilyn?
I think I'm like Marilyn. I was doing, obviously, as you know, Randomly with Ronnie Jr. We've got several podcasts, and I was doing another one, and I was rewatching it recently, and I realized that if the other person said like, the sky is blue, I found a way to talk about myself. And I think that, are you laughing because it's true?
No.
I was laughing because Marilyn did the same thing. They'd be like, oh, so what about Sally? Well, Sally doesn't have the metabolism that I had in 1978. It's like Marilyn was.
But you know what? They gave her a part. They actually cast her in the show.
I know, but that ended up upstaging Julie, though, which is just like, I mean, not upstaging, but
but then it begs the question: do you, step back from your opportunities for the sake of someone you care about?
I think in this situation you don't, though. Maybe across the board your question could be different, but in this situation, no. while Julie will be sad, and I think Julie did say it, she's like, oh, great, you're going to get on the show. The first introduction to a mass audience that I'm going to get is going to be the daughter of. But at the same time, you have the skill set to back it. You've been trying to get your foot in the door for so long. You have the thing about Julie and Billy that I like, and you kind of mentioned it a couple times in our past episodes. I feel like I think you've said stuff like they cut corners kind of, or maybe I said that. One of us had said that.
Yeah.
And it's like they do, but they don't. You cut corners sometimes just because nothing is happening. So if this is not necessarily the greatest way to break in and your mother feels okay with doing it, why don't you just break in? Why don't you just seize the opportunity? I did like the way Marilyn said, she goes, well, they were looking for somebody who could do this job that wouldn't have a problem with the patient confidentiality and somebody who wouldn't see the risk as something that would ruin, your practice or whatever. And voila, I was the one chosen. I was like, oh, Marilyn, she's so good for the show. Yeah.
But then like her aha moment when she realizes what she's doing is like she's giving a therapy session to, one of the housewives who has a similar situation of upstaging. And she realizes herself as she's giving this advice that that's exactly what she did. So to make up for it, she makes them all go out and support Julie, unbeknownst to them. But that was kind of, her way of making it up to her and being like, oh, I get it now. Which that's the thing that I like, because as off the wall as she can be and as self-involved as she is, well, that each of them are individually, they do have moments like this where they realize what they're doing and they try to make it right, even if it's in an unconventional way.
Yeah, it did catch her off guard. She was very, like, I felt like at the moment, she's the guest star, she's not even really a part of the show. She's directing the whole thing. Marilyn needs to get out of her own way, but it was nice that, she caught herself by way of like, oh, damn. And these are what I think we say this all the time. They're very good people, Marilyn, Julie, they just have a funny way of not being so involved. Do you think I'm self-involved? Is that what's happening here?
No, of course not. I think you're very self-aware. How about that?
Why is she coming for me today?
No, I'm not at all. I'm not at all. I do not think you are overly self-involved at all.
Okay, but I do catch myself saying, why am I always talking like about me? But I feel like, okay, let's break this down. No, I'm not letting you.
But if you have relatable things to a situation, then the way that you go about it, in my honest opinion, is not as negative as what you're trying to make it sound like right now. I don't believe that. I have this friend that anytime I have this friend. So
do I know them? I know your friends.
I'm sure you do.
Oh no.
But anytime I would talk about anything, it was always, oh, I did that, but I did it this way. It was always more dramatic. It was always better, or it was always, like way more intense. It was always like, oh, I coughed out a lung today. Oh, well, I coughed out a snake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, one of when you make things about you, it's not in that way. Like, that's when I think it's so self-involved and so bad. Like with the housewife situation, when she was talking about, oh, I did this book, but that's kind of her thing. Like that's when it's like the one-upper syndrome is what I can't stand. And I can't surround myself with people like that way. Like you and I do relatively similar things, but we're not trying to one-up each other. Yeah. And that's the difference is, being genuine about it. And even though you're like, oh, well, this happened to me, it's in a conversation so you can relate to what's happening. Even though it may seem like you're putting yourself in everything and making it about you, it's not in that same way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think sometimes you go through this part, like, I think I caught up with some old friends recently. And these are people that I knew for a long period of time, like in my early 20s. And at that particular time, I was like really warm and really fuzzy and really sweet, and not to say that I'm not that way now, but like, I feel like I was very timid. So I think what ends up happening, and I'm not saying this is a Maryland thing, but I know I've seen this in people, and this may be why I feel compelled to be like, oh wow, Kellie, I love that part of your story. So I kind of like yes and it in some weird way, where then I get excited and then I do keep going and I have to pull it back. I receive that, but I think it's sometimes you have to wonder where it comes from, and I do wonder where it comes from with Marilyn, because it really is like she just goes for broke. She's very confident, but like we don't know the backstory, you know. And I'm only saying
but you
that.
also got to think, we never see her husband. She's always in the shadows with everything. Not as much as she tries to make everything about her, nothing really ever is. So when she has the moment to be able to put herself out there, she takes it. And I think that's where it comes from. It's like, if you always feel like you're in the background, when you have the opportunity to shine a little bit, you should take it. Now, some people take it way too far and they are like trying to blind you with their shine all the time. Like, you don't have to do all that. Like sometimes you have to, you know, you got to share that spotlight a little bit. And, you know, like I was talking about this friend, I mean, like one day at my house, we're playing like a cassette tape of when I was probably 4 years old at a mall recording, you know, singing this song, and we're listening to it, laughing or whatever. It was Tiffany, like I think we're alone now.
Oh yeah, she was.
What a good song, right? So I'm a little kid singing this song and we're laughing about it. You know, my mom was like playing it for my boyfriend at the time and we're laughing about it. But like the song isn't even finished playing and she busts out singing like Somewhere Over the Rainbow or some shit, like on top of it. But that's the difference. Like, you're not that person. Marilyn is not necessarily that person either, although she tries to make it about her. Like, I feel like Matthew's that person, but it's not.
He's so fun though. Yeah.
But he's like in a fun way when he does it, not in like, and we just kind of look over at her like, really? Are you kidding? Like, like, sit down.
Well, I was going to ask you too, like, what do we think about, so this is where Marilyn catches herself, but what do we think about even the housewife was the Countess Luann de Lesseps?
Yes.
What do we think about her? And, you know, I think it was a misstep. You know, when you have a friend or a colleague, you are supposed to be a little sensitive to stuff like that. I mean, you are in the show, I will have you know, because you don't watch, but in Housewives, there was a scene with another housewife where they talked about, oh, that's a copycat brand or something like that, like a something, you know. You really do have to be, I think you have to be a little sensitive. I think that's, if we could have a moment.
You should be aware. Yes. And if it was something you want to do, because when my sister held me hostage and forced me to watch the Housewives event, and I say forced because I just totally got into it. But I saw an episode, like a few episodes that were sort of the same, where it was two of them that were doing similar like workout videos or something. I don't remember what it was. It was like something like that. But I think you're right. Like, when you're in a small circle of people, your friends can inspire you. And if you are doing similar things, like, you know, it's a free world, you know, it's a free country. Let me rephrase, but you know, you can do what, you know, do what you want, but you should be sensitive to the fact that you don't want to, especially if you're having conversations about it, don't steal someone's intellectual property. Like, talk about it, like help each other, but don't like be thieves, you know, don't be ugly about it.
Well, can I go beyond as far as why this freaking show is amazing? And we are not perfect by any means. I mean, if you listen to the first 7 minutes of the show, you'll probably fell asleep. It was
are you
boring.
Still listening? Come on.
Yeah. But when we hit. And I think what's so magical about us, and, you know, our budget is a little low, but thank you to Viridian Row, our sponsor, for hooking us up. We're ready for more Viridian Row sales so we can get the cashola coming back even heavier. No, but seriousness, Kellie, I'm looking at you. I think what makes our show good is we have, I think it's also because we cut our teeth quite a bit. We have succeeded, we failed. We've mentioned this before, but we have this level of like being, like, I think when I chat with you and you say such similar things too, it's like, well, what value do I bring to Kellie for her time? Because time is important. I think this is like the big deal, you know? Yeah. So I think, and you've said similar stuff to me. Oh, well, thank you for the value you bring. And then I'm always like, well, thank you for the value you bring. And then how do we both bring something to the table? And I would never want to assume, like, just to skip over my beloved longtime friend Kellie and just assume like for instance, like if I got an opportunity in PR and you've been a publicist for so long, you're the first phone call that should come through. It shouldn't be like me navigating around and you being out of the loop. You should always kind of know what's up. So great. I think we do that very well, but those damn housewives do not. But yeah, no, 1 to 10, can I tell you that I think Luann and Sonia are two of my favorites. Very self-involved. Sonia's more the drunky one, always drunk, which isn't really a good thing. But she's also very funny. You know, people they should not say this, but they're saying she's like our modern day Lucille Ball. Like, don't do that to Lucille Ball because she's gonna be pissed. But she
Right.
is funny though. She is very funny. She's very self-deprecating. Yeah.
Well, and that's what that is what I love about our relationship. And it's the same with Billy and Julie, right? Like they can come to each other and they are doing essentially the same thing and they're working together and they're always trying to bring the other one along with wherever they go, which I always think is good. There's not competition there. It's a very genuine when you succeed, I succeed. And I want that for you. And I, as crazy as they are to everyone outside the two of them, that relationship remains true. And that's what makes them such beloved characters because of that. Because no matter how silly they can be or how outlandish, that, you know, you still get, you know, you see that genuine friendship, which is great.
And we saw that with the first season finale with the Christmas episode where Billy could not go to the show because he had to tend to his niece's recital. And the number one thing was, while this was going to be sticky within the friendship, they had to check in on each other just to be honest with each other, because they realized the friendship needs to be intact, even with all the hiccups, because the business you do with certain people means more than the business itself sometimes. I mean, that's just, that's a quote from How to Make It in America. And we both love that show.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I was just having a conversation like this with a couple of my friends, and you know, you get so wrapped up in your life and it's really easy to take for granted the good people that have been around you, the friendships that you have when you don't necessarily, quote unquote, need someone for something. So sometimes you forget to do like the, hey, how are you? What's going on in your life? Because you're so wrapped up in what's going on in your own. And I've been very guilty of that. And I have, you know, as I get older, you know, and coming up on a whole nother year, which is bleh, but I've been,
he's only getting sexier, baby.
Oh yeah. I've been doing a lot of reflecting, and it's just, you know, trying to, you know, be that better friend, trying to do what these two characters, as flawed as they are, already do. They check in with each other. They're, you know, what's going on, you know, being with, you know, his niece was more important. Julie understood that and she was okay with it. And, you know, she rocked out on her own and it was okay. And their friendship didn't suffer because of it. And I want to make sure my friendships are like that more so. And I want to be more present.
All right, and, Kelly, like fine wine. All right, I see you. I love the way
I'm learning from Billy and Julie today.
I will say that, you know, here I go show my ass on this episode or on this show all the time. And sometimes I think I've texted you this. I feel so like not, oh God, corny, but I feel like vulnerable. But you know what I'm saying? Like because we've known each other for so long, since like 2003, like it's just kind of like the cool just jumps off the show sometimes. Like even if we wanted to, you and I wanted to play it cool, like when you engage with somebody and you're friends with somebody, like we end up just letting it loose a lot of times, where I'm like, I'll text Kelly, I'm like, should I edit that shit out? Or Kelly will say something, I'm like, do you want me to cut that out? Just because we're just so comfortable. But it's the benefit. And I think I have other good friends like this too. I'm starting another a Twitch series as well with an old friend from the radio station we used to work at. And it's the same thing. Yeah. It's the same thing. It's like when you have a bond for so long, it makes things so much easier, but it also makes the art, I guess, so much harder because you really are digging deep. So I guess that's a good thing. Before we get into the art and the Swiftical musical, can we just talk about how shitty they were to those mongrels that were in the rush line and trying to get the tickets, which I just thought what did she say? She said, oh, you look like you went to homeschool. Like, I know that this is not fair, but it was fair. It was so fair. And
that made me laugh so hard. And it was, that's one that I wrote down. Like, you look like you were homeschooled. She's
like, I want the
there is nothing wrong with homeschooling, by the way. That is not a diss, but it was hilarious.
I know. It just is, it's just the fact that they called them mongrels, and they called them mongrels because they said, we want to see Hamilton. And then they make a mention of Lin-Manuel Miranda. They're like, who is that? We want to see Hamilton. And it's just, it really is that duality of like, being from the city and then being amongst tourists, especially right there. I did work an event once. You know, when you do move to New York and you have nothing going on, you work every job under the sun. And I remember specifically working this one event where I think I was doing the same thing as the guy, where he's like, "Do you guys like comedy?" I don't think I had to do that, but I had to pass out flyers for like the Madame Tussauds or something like that. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Kelly, I mean, this is my journey has been when I get paid mad money from Viridian Row, I will look back at these moments. And I remember having a photo of one that was just so dynamic. I was in front of, well, the Ed Sullivan Theater, you know, where
Oh yeah.
Stephen Colbert, I think Letterman was still there at the time. I'm not really sure. But the point is, I was in front of that theater and I remember saying, "What? This is how bright-eyed and bushy-tailed I was then." I said, "Well, Ronnie, this is a cheesy job, but just think, one day you're going to have a photo of you passing out flyers in front of the theater. And then one day you're going to have your own show in a theater just like that." I mean, granted, I was like 31 years old. So I was like, you know, feeling like shit was still possible. Now I'm like,
Hey,
I'm happy if we get seven people that like our shitty show.
Hey, it is still possible. Anything is possible.
Yeah, I'm mentioning that just to the fact that yes, we're not shitting on homeschool, but we are shitting on those mongrels you have to freaking deal with when you have to do these terrible jobs, and I've done them all. So
I've had my fair share as well. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
This is interesting because for the Fringe Festival, they are going to do a Taylor Swift musical.
The Swifticle.
And she has an album out now, so there's like kind of like just an ironic tie-in, you know.
It is, which I thought was so fun because she just re-released, and good for her, all new recordings of her old album. I think this one was Red that she just redid, and she's talking about everybody, like bringing it all back. And I think she updated some stuff, and like the track list is insane. She did like, you know, lyric videos, and, you know, she did like even a little short movie of one of my favorite songs of hers, which is All Too Well, that, you know, has a little, you know, Jake Gyllenhaal jabs in it, apparently, who was on stage recently as well. So it's a lot of, you know, stage overlaps just in, you know, putting it in relative, you know, like our time today.
Tying it all together.
But she sent them a cease and desist letter. They can't do a Swifticle.
From Shake It Off Productions, which, by the way, that's cheesy song. If You Are Drunk can be fun if you're with a good group of people. Yeah. A fun song. I would like to pretend I would be too cool for that song, but I do recall a time I was working a shift that was one of these like 14-hour days, and when we were off, we had to wake up early the next morning. It was a production for a reality show, so we're like tired, but the group wants to hang out. We're at the North Fork in Long Island, in Greenport actually, and it was like, do we go to bed? We're so tired. It was like 2 14-hour days in a row, and then we go to this really small bar, you know, right there on the cute little, you know, the neighborhood's so cute. And that song came on, and why we all just turned into like, you know, teenagers. Like we were like,
did you turn into Julie and Billy when they went to Jersey?
Kind of. It was just like it escaped me, and I'll never hear the song "Shake It Off" without thinking about how a bunch of cool production people who are usually typically jaded, once that song came on, we were the mongrels all of a sudden, you know. It was embarrassing.
Doing like the dance from the video.
Everything. But yeah, she sends a cease and desist to Billy and Julie, which then leads to this moment of Arthur. I thought it was so funny because Arthur was like, well, you know, this is what you should do. You should sort of like keep the material, but switch up, or what was it? Keep something of that. Yeah.
Basically just change the concept, like keep the idea, but change who it's about. Like, you know, make it about somebody different, so you're not plagiarizing or copy. You know, you're not.
But at this time, they didn't know. At this time, they didn't even know who they were going to do a show about. This is
right. But I like how she says, "Shh, keep the arts." What does she say? Keep the art to the arties and keep the farts to the party.
Which really took me to that moment where she shut
Poor
Arthur. Yeah, she shut Arthur up and she goes, "Excuse me, the soulmates are talking." So like, it's just an extension of that. But Arthur, of course, is a good boyfriend and he's always there for her. But this does put them in a weird situation. So then they go to, I guess they are trying to either change the show or trying to get their money back, something of that nature. And who's there? Our favorite, Andrea Mumford. I mean,
hilarious, by the way.
Fuck on. And she's digging. She is digging at them because she's like, and my question to you is, do you think Billy didn't remember her, or was he just, because he goes, "Excuse me, lady, we meet a lot of people." Was that one of those flexes where you're like trying to act like you've been like you're so important, or did he really not remember her?
Absolutely remembered her. I mean, come on, because you remember like
they bombed at the Moth. Yeah.
So that's something that they don't forget. They just are trying to play that too cool for school deal. Yeah. That's why when she said she was going to go see the show, they had to hurry up and figure something out to actually put on a show, like for her to go and see. So hence here comes Carter. So which is funny, but yeah, because the whole episode you get this sort of running idea that they keep having, which is like, because the only reason that cease and desist even existed was because they lied and said that Lin-Manuel Miranda enjoyed the show, therefore the ticket sales went up, therefore they got caught for their plagiarism situation. So they keep kind of tying in Lin-Manuel. So then I guess, yeah, so the question is, they had no idea who they were going to change the show to. That all happened on the spot, right, Kelly? I mean, is that, so it was just trying to impress her? Yeah, they just started discussing it together and like whatever, because they were like, well, what if we could, keep the animals and, keep the stuff, but change it to, whatever and mix it up. And that's how they came up with that, to incorporate it into, a little bit of that Hamilton rap. And they started writing all this other stuff and, just kind of made it a mess. Because the concept in general was to Weird Al Yankovic it, Yes. Yes. That was, instead of saying I'm bad like Michael Jackson, you say I'm fat, stuff like that, which those music videos, of course, were classic in the 80s. So yeah, this puts them in a weird situation when they see Andrea Mumford. And they have, I just like the way she just kind of kept on lying. She goes, Swift it's now Carter. Like she just kept on lying, and they put themselves in a really terrible situation, but that's good too. Hey, but they put on a show. That's the thing, is like they will see it through, and they did. They told her she was gonna have a show to watch, and by golly, she had a show to watch, even if it was a hot mess. Yeah, and it did allow for a couple things. It allowed for Matthew to sort of be, Billy was only able to do the show if Matthew was in the show. So Billy got excited because he could fire Matthew, but then he couldn't again. So even just like that was fun, Oh, and before we talk about the show, because it was fun and the music was fun. And if Luann de Lesseps didn't understand it, that's her fault. Totally her fault. But at least they made up. And they couldn't figure out why they were fighting anymore. Yeah, they wanted to go somewhere where they got noticed. But what else was on notice, which ended up being a really terrible situation too, was the part that I alluded to earlier here, which was Denise and Nate sort of talking about, because it's restaurant week, which for some reason, I guess if you're the restaurateur, it's terrible, I guess, because of, the hard work or whatever. Oh, and Lola, take two, bring it home. I know. And, Lola, she's killing it. It's just such a fun environment. She's like such a scene stealer. Like, I love it. Even when she comes out and, they're talking about restaurant week and she's like, oh, so I'm going to be the shame in the back. Yeah. And she's throwing this fit, and they're like, you're not getting the night off. She's like, fuck. Yeah. They're all 100% mean to each other if necessary. And if they find out that Lola's trying to pull a move, they're like, bitch, no, you're not getting the day off. Calm down. Nobody's discriminating against you. But here's the thing that I didn't even think about, because like I've enjoyed a lot of the restaurant weeks. I lived uptown for like 4 years, and like Marcus Samuelson, the Red Rooster, and Sylvia's, and Melba Moore at Melba's, like it's a fun environment for the consumer, but I didn't realize how terrible it probably is
for Denise and for Nate, and they couldn't get their veggies on time, and they had to get their veggies on time because then it would have turned into a Sephora at some point, or some condos with some unmentionable activities. Like, I didn't even realize, I guess, how much goes into that, as the person who just walks in and enjoys the festivities. It's like, oh, this is the funnest thing. But from being around a lot of events, it's not easy.
It is absolutely not easy. So many things go into it. And, even if, and the thing about anybody that works in events will tell you, like, it's very rare that all the planning goes smoothly. I mean, it will always look like it does, but there's like a shit show usually behind the scenes. Someone doesn't show up, something doesn't arrive on time. Like, it's always such a mess because it's inevitable. Like, things just happen.
Even when
whether it's weather related or something that like a human error, like whatever, it's just like something always happens. You just have to kind of prepare for it and just always have a plan B, C, and D.
And then that's when E comes up. It's just like, it's just so terrible. I think because I've worked in radio, so there's been a lot of like broadcast and podcast type stuff and like technical stuff. I've seen all the under the sun technology things, and a minute of dead air. It's like a very long
it's
time.
Like forever. A minute of dead air is like a week. Actually,
I shouldn't even mention that. 2 seconds of dead air is like, what button do I press? I know.
But ridiculous.
Here's the fun part about it, Kelly, is that by this stress and this pressure, and Matthew sort of out of their hair, and Matthew kind of evolving, and we kind of get some of the first signs that Matthew's going to be getting married to the older gentleman. And it kind of opens up some honesty. So Denise and Nate, they want to look into adopting a baby, which is so cute. And again, I love their relationship, and I will forever keep that that flirtation of Nate burned into my brain. I will. He was like, say what now? Oh yeah. Anyways, wasn't that cute though? Didn't you like their little reaction?
I did. Like, it was cute, and they're really excited about it, about adopting another child together. And you really got to see a little bit more inside their relationship, which was cute. And we also find out that Hamilton was stolen from Nate.
Oh yeah.
And he was really upset about it. And I love Denise's reaction to it. She's like, oh, so what, you're sad that you became an entrepreneur and a restaurateur and you married a beautiful woman? Like, what the fuck? Like, this guy.
She is, I don't know if I hope she's overrated, but if she is underrated, Gabrielle Sidibe, like, people need to get their shit together because she is hysterical.
She is hysterical.
Obviously the dramatic is what put her on the map as far as, what was it, Precious, but like the way she's I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know that a lot of people thought her career could continue to flourish, and like there's something about her that is just so amazing. And that's the thing about this show, like it is a blessing. Sometimes I feel like we're not even qualified, no diss to us, but to recap this show, because it's like this cast, Shakina is fantastic. Cole is so wonderful. I mean, it's just like they are, Derek Baskins, it's like people that just have went on to do such great things, and like to all be under the same, production, and then be these characters that we fell in love with for 3 seasons. Like, get it together, Hulu, give us a movie.
I know.
We want to see a movie.
Yes, we do. Yes.
Anyway. But yeah, that was I thought some honesty from Denise to even be so flirtatious or cute back with Nate, and it just was good to see. So that's what happens, because now Matthew is sort of he's right there.
Well, now they gotta tell him, they gotta break the news.
Oh, that he's not gonna be in it?
No, they gotta break the news that they're planning this for their family.
Oh yes, real quick.
Because to Denise, he's practically her son.
Yeah, and before we end the episode with him doing the Birdman walk in Times Square, which I think is just such a great way to end the show, because you start off in Times Square, with the mongrels. I will call people mongrels for some time because of this show. But yeah, the show itself, like, it was great, because you have to, I always, when something shitty happens, and I mean shitty, or even not that shitty, I always say, like Marilyn said, you gotta laugh, because, you know, the way they made fun of some things in that Carter musical was, ugh, you know, and if you really think historically with a lot of the people, you know, it made it really like, well, you gotta laugh because it is so gross. You know what I mean? I mean, we saw some, they played around with the cats, they played around with the cow, and, you know, Reagan, of course, you know, despicably was silent. That's my only, you know, pissed off moment. Of course, that is, you know, it's a 40-year epidemic. And, you know, that was many, many years and many, many problems and such a dark thing. So the way they were able to do this Carter musical and sort of like bring something to it. I don't know. Am I putting my foot in it? But you see what I'm saying.
I mean, I see what you're saying. Like it just, they touched on so many different things, which just kind of made it like if you weren't really paying attention, you weren't gonna get it. And if you weren't really like, as far as like the audience goes too, like that we're just in there like looking at this being like, what am I watching? It's like, unless you really were savvy to know those little bits and fun facts about this, you know, the subject matter, it was going to go like, like you weren't going to get it.
That and the crowd itself, you know, the crowd itself now is very like, you know, PC. So, you know, there's even that element, but that's what's beautiful about the stage, you know, and these shows, because really, again, there's parts of it that are very Maryland. You gotta laugh, you know. As I say that in my normal life when something shitty happens. I'm always like, fuck. Well, you gotta laugh just because it's just like, damn, you know. But that's what makes it great, you know, the artistry of it. So I was glad. I thought the music was even good too. You know, I always think of the music of the show. You know, Julie's Christmas song, to me, I sing that every Christmas. Yeah,
it's so fantastic.
Anyway,
that needs to be on iTunes if it isn't already.
Yeah, probably is. And that wraps up sort of the show, because then Matthew, of course, gets the news. He has his Birdman moments, and
he's like, no.
Yeah, which is funny because he even was like, my body fat is Chenowethian. So like Kristen Chenoweth even gets a little bit of a mention. The beauty of the show is there's just so many mentions of so many things, you know, and it really came together. I love the episode. I cannot believe we're coming through this fast. And that's to say we're lame. I'm lame. And we don't do things efficiently and on time, but so what? We're almost done.
We are almost done.
Any last opinions on that? And then you have to tell me, because we talked about Housewives, you have to tell me, you have to butch it up for us and tell me why you like Yellowstone. Okay,
but first we left out a very, very, very funny Andrea Mumford moment when she's hitting on Arthur. Totally skipped that, and it was one of my favorite. When you want some real, here's my number.
She said, you want some real grade A.
I mean, and they're like, wait, what? Excuse me?
It was like, so perfect. It was so perfect because she doesn't ever say anything good to them or about them. So she was like, so was she was being honest. That's the thing.
No, she said she was being genuine. She enjoyed the show. She did say she was being genuine, but then when she hits on Arthur, it's just like hilarious. And I loved it. And it, you know, giving Arthur, you know, getting him some props, you know, he is a catch. Julie needs to, you know, she needs to remember that a little more often.
And I do like the way it made Julie have to be defensive about him, because that doesn't ever happen. You know,
and
she's
even
like,
Billy was too. It was hilarious. And, okay, so Yellowstone.
This is the fair part of our show, because, you know, I had been, Kelly put me on detention because I would always talk about Kenya Moore and the Housewives. So Kelly, you know, she didn't tell me not to, but she would roll her eyes like, again, Ronnie. And so then I would tell you,
and then I get the Kenya memes and like the
when we text, when we text, and it didn't make anything better that she was on Dancing with the Stars. So I'm bugging Kelly every week. So I had been told in my inner monologue that like, yo, let's chill on the Housewives. And lo and behold, this episode had Housewives. So before we did this show, I says, okay, listen, I'm gonna have to tell you how amazing Luann de Lesseps is, how amazing Sonia Moore is, why Bethany Frankel is the GOAT, you know, all of these things. And so I was like, okay, at least we could butch it up and have Kelly
butch it up. Because I'm butch of the situation, apparently.
Yeah. We're just having fun. So I know I'm so rude. So we're like, oh, Kellie could talk to us and give us like 3 reasons why this show is so amazing, which you didn't watch at the beginning. You came late, right?
I didn't. I'm a new to it, so I'm not. I wasn't. From the beginning on it at all. A lot of people were coming to me and telling me that I needed to watch it, and I was always interested. Kind of never got around to it because Kevin Costner was in it, and I was always curious because Kevin Costner doing TV, like, why would he do TV? And I just didn't ever get around to it. And then this when it was on hiatus, like, people were just like, you gotta watch it, and I was like, fine, I will watch it. So I binged it.
Who are these people?
Like, so many people, it's like so many people watch this show, and this is not an easy show to watch. Like, you can't necessarily stream it. You have to have Paramount Network, not Paramount Plus. It's like a whole thing. It's a hot mess with their streaming rights and all that. So that's a whole other thing. But you can watch the first 3 seasons on Peacock, and then the new one shows on Paramount. I think I have that right. Anyway, so I started binging it. The first 5 minutes of the first episode, I was obsessed with Kellie Riley, who plays Beth Dutton. This character is insane. It's like her character is like me on my bitchiest moment, to the 10th power.
What's her name? I want to watch it now.
The character's name is Beth Dutton, and she's Kevin Costner's daughter. Kevin Costner's his family has owned this ranch through generations, and a lot in Montana, and he's always kind of just kept to himself and whatever, but he owns the most amount of land in Montana that nobody can have, and it becomes a struggle. So it's basically fighting over territory. It's he's fighting to keep his land. And it's I got my sister watching it, and her description of it was so funny to me, but she was kind of right. It's the cowboy version of Sons of Anarchy. It's some crazy.
I was going to mention that because I know you like that show a lot.
I love that show
and never missed an episode. No. I am a little worried to not fuck with you though, because I'm thinking if you're telling me this badass show, you're one of the characters. I'm gonna make sure when Kellie says
I'm not even that bad. People can say, but a lot of people would disagree. But if you, when I was the meanest I can get, Beth Dutton is on a whole nother level, and I'm digging it.
Listen, when Kellie says we're going to record, I'm going to listen to her, because if you even see yourself in the character, I'm worried.
I mean, you got to check it out. Just I'm telling you, the first episode, the first 5 minutes, she's in this boardroom, they're buying out this guy's company, and he's, he calls her a bitch, and she walks behind him and puts her hand on his shoulders, and she says, I just paid for your kids to go to college. I just saved your house. I just did this. Say something more appropriate. And he goes, thank you. And I just was I love her. And she walks off. You're welcome.
Okay, that's a fair introduction. I mean,
and once you see Cole Hauser is phenomenal in this show as Rip, who is a great character. I mean, it's a great show, but it is very, it's pretty. It's got a lot of shit going on.
The Difficult Podcasters exclusive Patreon for $5.99 a month, maybe.
I mean, I'm telling you, it honestly is a great show, and I'm snobby when it comes to my television. So if everybody's telling me to watch, I'm we'll see. You know what I mean?
Because you think it's overblown, like people just on the band, Tiger King was not that good, and now they have a second one. Everyone hates it. It's the first one wasn't good anyway. You know what I mean?
Right. But it's kind of so I'm always skeptical. And I'm okay, I'll get to it when I get to it. But I finally did. And I was holy shit, where have I been? Now I just hurt myself not watching this show sooner. And they're doing a prequel now too, that goes back to the earlier generations of the family. With Tim McGraw and Faith Hill are going to be in it, which is interesting. And Sam Elliott, who's always amazing.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, so it's called it's probably their big moneymaker, that show, Paramount. Sure. So I mean, it's on all the commercials. So
it's a fantastic show, and so many people watch it, which I think is awesome, because it goes back to regular TV before necessarily Netflix and all of that, because you have to have a cable subscription to get Paramount network. So whether you're subscribing to cable through Hulu or whatever, you can't just stream it. Like you have to, it takes a little work to be able to watch it. So I'm logging onto my TV on the internet, trying to get to my thing just to watch it. So it like takes me 10 minutes before I can watch it. I got my mom watching it. So we're like, everybody shut up.
That's good though. The one thing I like about that is, there's a lot of streaming, which is really convenient, but the streaming sometimes, like specifically like on a Netflix, it's like seasons come out and then have at it. I like a show similar to like back in the day when like HBO would have Sunday nights, Sex and the City would be on, or whatever night it was. Succession is now on, Insecure is on. I like appointment television, and it kind of maybe is another reason that it's fun to watch because you have your water cooler moments.
Totally.
I'm not saying
Sex and the City is rebooting the day before my birthday, so that's gonna be nice.
Will you watch it?
I'm absolutely gonna watch it.
Yeah, because you watched the first one.
I did. I wasn't really that big of a fan of the second movie. I thought that it was just a little too ridiculous, but overall, I've always liked the characters.
Yeah, the beginning of the second one was good though. I like the wedding.
Yeah.
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 I mean, I liked it all, and it's going to be good. And I'm loving.
It was just like when they took off for like Abu Dhabi that I was like, okay, that's like it was. They had a little too much disrespect of the culture and all that.
Oh, and you also probably saw like the fact that they're filming, in certain locations. It's more about like just having this fabulous life as an actress and less about the character, maybe. Oh, okay. Well, but I gotta say, look at how it came alive once we started talking about that show. You were talking about Yellowstone. I'm like, okay, Yellowstone. And then the moment
I'm done. It's all yours.
Once we said Carrie Bradshaw, Ronnie
then
said
everything starts to sparkle.
All of a sudden I was like, ooh, let's talk about it. Okay, well, this was great. I am so thankful that you do this. I would say every week, but we're freaking slow.
I know. Like I'm starting to like sweat in the storage room. Like
then we'll wrap it up. You're in a storage room. I don't know whose storage room or why. Blink 3 times if there's a problem. I'm gonna text you as soon as we get off, and our secret code. This was fun, Kellie. I'm gonna say so thankful, like I say, to work with you on this, but also as we get to the next episode, it will be around the time of your birthday, which is not Sagittarius. What is it?
Yeah, Sagittarius.
Oh,
I'm a full-blown Sagittarius. Okay. Yes, through and through.
So I know to the end of the earth, the Virgo, stuff, because that is like the magical time of the year, So I want you on our next episode to give me some Sagittarius vibes. Like, tell me about it. I know a lot of really good, specifically women, Sagittarius women that are like the coolest chicks ever. So I want to know.
It's the best sign.
Okay, for the women. Virgo for the men. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, Virgo in general, you guys could be.
Well, I mean, Virgos are good. My cousin's Virgo, so it's all good.
Yeah, the best. We're not good. We're the best. Okay, I gotta go. You're magical, and we'll do a little birthday celebration next time we talk.
All right.
Okay. Bye, Kellie.